The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Kensington Palace as Princess Kate gently woke her three children. Prince George, now 10 years old, was already stirring in his bed, while Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis needed a bit more coaxing to wake up. Today was not an ordinary day. It was the day of King Charles's coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Kate moved gracefully through the children's rooms, her voice soft and encouraging. She had been preparing for this moment for months, knowing that her children would play important roles in this historic event. The weight of tradition and the eyes of the world would be upon them, but she wanted to ensure they felt comfortable and excited rather than nervous. Prince William had risen early, as was his custom on important occasions. He stood by the window, in his dressing gown, looking out at the London skyline while sipping his morning tea. The significance of this day was not lost on him. His father was about to become king, and the family would take another step forward in their royal duties. He could hear the distant sounds of crowds already gathering along the ceremonial route and helicopters circling overhead as media prepared for extensive coverage. In the palace kitchen, the household staff worked efficiently to prepare a light but nourishing breakfast for the family. They knew the day would be long and demanding, with little opportunity for the royals to eat properly once the ceremonies began. Cook had prepared Prince Louis's favorite pancakes, hoping to keep the youngest family member in good spirits throughout the morning preparations. Charlotte bounced into her parents' bedroom, already dressed in her practice outfit, eager to show off the curtsy she had been perfecting for weeks. Her grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth, had taught her the proper technique during their private sessions, and Charlotte was determined to perform it perfectly for her grandfather's coronation. Kate smiled warmly at her daughter's enthusiasm, remembering her own nervousness before her wedding day at the same abbey. The family gathered for breakfast in their private dining room, away from the bustling preparations happening throughout the rest of the palace. William helped Louis cut his pancakes while discussing the day's schedule in simple terms the 6-year-old could understand. George listened intently as his father explained his role as a page of honor, a position that filled him with both pride and responsibility. Kate reviewed the timeline once more with the children, using a colorful chart she had created to help them visualize the day's events. She pointed out when they would leave the palace, their arrival at the abbey, the procession, the ceremony itself, and the return journey. The children asked questions about everything from how long they would need to sit still to whether they could wave at the crowds. As the morning progressed, the sound of military preparations grew louder outside. The household cavalry was making final checks on their horses and ceremonial gear, while the various regiments involved in the procession conducted last-minute rehearsals. Inside the palace, stylists and dressers began arriving to help the family prepare for one of the most photographed days of their lives. Prince Louis showed the first signs of the excitement and energy that would characterize his day, running around the breakfast table and making sound effects for the horses he could hear outside. William gently redirected his youngest son's energy into helping him understand the importance of the day, while Kate made mental notes about keeping Louis engaged during the longer, more formal portions of the ceremony. The family's private moments together became more precious as the morning wore on, knowing that once they left for Westminster Abbey, they would be in the public eye continuously. These quiet conversations over breakfast, the gentle corrections of posture and protocol, and the reassuring smiles shared between parents and children would be their last private interactions until they returned home as witnesses to history. Kate felt a familiar mix of emotions: pride in her family's role in British history, concern for her children's comfort and behavior, and excitement about witnessing such a momentous occasion. She had learned over the years how to balance her protective instincts as a mother with the demands of royal protocol, and today would test those skills more than ever before. As they finished breakfast, William gathered his children around him for a brief family huddle. He reminded them that millions of people around the world would be watching, not just to see the new king crowned, but to see how the next generation of royals conducted themselves. He emphasized that they should be proud of their heritage while remembering to be respectful and attentive throughout the day. The children nodded solemnly at their father's words, though Louis's attention was already drifting to the increasingly impressive sounds coming from outside. Charlotte practiced her curtsy one more time, and George straightened his shoulders, already adopting the bearing that his royal training had taught him. Kate watched her family with deep affection, knowing that this day would become one of their most treasured memories together. With breakfast concluded, the family began the transition from their private morning routine to the public duties that awaited them. The transformation from parents and children sharing a quiet meal to senior members of the British royal family, preparing for a coronation ceremony, was about to begin, marking the end of their peaceful morning and the start of a truly historic day. Dressing for history. The palace transformed into a bustling center of activity as the royal dressing teams arrived with garment bags, jewelry cases, and accessories that had been carefully selected and prepared over many months. Kate's personal dresser had laid out her stunning ceremonial outfit in the master bedroom, while the children's formal wear was arranged in their respective rooms with military precision. Princess Charlotte's excitement reached new heights when she saw her specially designed dress hanging in her wardrobe. The outfit had been created by the same designer who made her mother's clothes, featuring delicate embroidery and traditional elements that honored both royal protocol and her young age. She ran her small fingers along the fabric, marveling at the intricate details that would make her part of this grand historical moment. Prince George felt the weight of responsibility as he was helped into his page of honor uniform. The red and gold outfit was identical to those worn by other young pages, but George understood that his role was special because of his position in the line of succession. His valet explained each piece of the uniform, from the ornate jacket to the white gloves that he must keep spotless throughout the ceremony. Prince Louis initially resisted getting dressed, preferring his comfortable play clothes to the formal outfit that awaited him. Kate knelt down to his level, explaining how handsome he would look and how proud everyone would be of him. She made a game of getting dressed, letting him help fasten buttons and adjust his tie, gradually building his cooperation and enthusiasm for the formal attire. William stood before a full-length mirror as his ceremonial military uniform was fitted to perfection. The uniform represented his various honorary colonel appointments and bore the insignia of his royal rank. Each medal and decoration had been polished to a brilliant shine, and the sword at his side had been worn by princes before him at similar ceremonies throughout British history. Kate's preparation was perhaps the most elaborate, involving multiple layers of clothing, carefully arranged jewelry, and a headpiece that had been specifically created for this occasion. Her dresser worked with practiced efficiency, ensuring every detail was perfect while Kate maintained conversation with her children, keeping them calm and engaged as they all prepared together. The children were fascinated by the transformation they witnessed in their parents. Their father, usually seen in casual clothes around the house, now appeared every inch the future king in his military splendor. Their mother, always elegant, seemed to glow with an extra radiance that came from wearing clothes and jewelry fit for such an extraordinary occasion. Hairstylists worked carefully on each family member, creating looks that would photograph beautifully and withstand the long day ahead. Charlotte's hair was arranged with small flowers woven through it, while the boy's hair was styled to look neat and formal without appearing too adult. Kate's hairstyle incorporated elements that would support her headpiece while framing her face elegantly for the cameras. Prince Louis discovered that his formal shoes made interesting sounds on the palace's wooden floors, and he began practicing a little marching routine that made his siblings giggle. William encouraged this playfulness, knowing that keeping Louis in good spirits would be crucial for the day's success. The sound of the youngest prince's happy laughter provided a wonderful counterpoint to the serious preparations happening around them. As each family member neared completion of their dressing process, they gathered in the main salon for final inspections and photographs. The palace photographer captured intimate family moments that would become treasured private memories, separate from the official images that would be taken later at Westminster Abbey and during the public appearances. Kate made final adjustments to the children's outfits, smoothing fabric, adjusting accessories, and offering last-minute reminders about posture and protocol. She had learned from previous royal events that attention to these details early would prevent problems later, when there would be no opportunity for corrections. The household staff moved efficiently around the family, making sure everyone had what they needed for the day ahead. Water bottles were discreetly placed in the cars. Small snacks were prepared for the children, and backup accessories were packed in case of any mishaps during the long ceremony. George practiced carrying the ceremonial items he would be responsible for during the service under the watchful eye of the ceremony coordinator, who had been working with the pages of honor for weeks. His movements were becoming more natural and confident, and his parents could see how seriously he was taking his important role. Charlotte twirled in front of the mirror, delighting in how her dress moved and sparkled in the morning light. Kate reminded her about sitting properly in the dress and walking carefully in her formal shoes, but she was pleased to see her daughter's confidence and joy in participating in such a significant family event. The final touches included the careful placement of any medals, orders, or ceremonial items that each family member would wear. These pieces carried deep historical significance and had been worn by previous generations of royals at similar ceremonies. The weight of tradition was literally resting on their shoulders as they prepared to step into their public roles. Prince Louis was given a small ceremonial item to hold during parts of the ceremony, something to keep his hands busy and give him a sense of participation without any critical responsibility. Kate had learned from experience that giving her youngest son something specific to focus on would help him remain engaged and well-behaved during long formal events. As the family stood together, fully dressed and prepared for their historic day, there was a moment of quiet pride and anticipation. They looked like characters from a fairy tale, but they were real people about to participate in one of Britain's most ancient and important ceremonies. The transformation from a family having breakfast to royals ready for a coronation was now complete. The journey through London. The moment had arrived for the Wales family to leave the sanctuary of Kensington Palace and begin their ceremonial journey to Westminster Abbey. Outside, the streets of London had been transformed into a spectacular display of British pageantry, with thousands of people lining the route and millions more watching from around the world through their television screens. Prince William helped each of his children into their designated car, ensuring their formal outfits remained perfect despite the excitement and movement. The vehicles were part of a carefully choreographed procession that had been planned down to the minute, with precise timing that would bring them to Westminster Abbey exactly when protocol demanded. As their car pulled away from Kensington Palace, Princess Charlotte pressed her face to the window, amazed by the sight of so many people gathered along the streets. Union Jack flags waved everywhere, and the crowd's enthusiasm was visible even from inside the moving vehicle. She waved tentatively at first, then more confidently as she saw people waving back and taking photographs. Prince Louis bounced in his seat, pointing excitedly at the horses and soldiers they passed along the route. The household cavalry had created a magnificent display, with their polished breastplates catching the morning sun and their horses stepping in perfect formation. His running commentary on everything he saw kept the family entertained and helped ease any lingering nervousness. Kate sat gracefully despite the car's movement, occasionally adjusting the children's posture and reminding them about the importance of appearing calm and dignified even when they felt excited. She pointed out significant landmarks along their route, turning the journey into an educational experience about London's history and the significance of the day's events. Prince George watched the proceedings with the serious attention befitting his role as a page of honor. He observed how the other ceremonial participants conducted themselves, mentally rehearsing his own duties and responsibilities for the upcoming ceremony. His maturity was evident in how he balanced his natural curiosity with his understanding of royal protocol. The crowds grew thicker and more enthusiastic as they approached Westminster, with people calling out greetings and holding up signs welcoming the royal family. The sound of cheering could be heard even inside the car, creating an atmosphere of celebration that made the historical significance of the day feel both grand and joyful. William pointed out various military regiments and ceremonial units that lined their route, explaining their different uniforms and traditions to his children. This impromptu history lesson helped pass the time, while also deepening the children's appreciation for the rich traditions they were participating in as members of the royal family. Security personnel were stationed at regular intervals along the route, but their presence was subtle and professional, allowing the focus to remain on the celebration rather than any security concerns. The planning that had gone into this day was evident in how smoothly everything flowed, from traffic management to crowd control. Charlotte asked questions about the people in the crowd, wondering where they had come from and how long they had been waiting to see the royal family pass by. Kate explained that people had traveled from all over Britain and even from other countries to witness this historic coronation ceremony, making Charlotte feel even more special about her participation as they passed significant London landmarks. William shared stories about previous royal events that had taken place at these locations. The children learned about their great-grandmother's coronation procession, their grandparents' wedding, and other important moments in their family's history that had brought crowds to these same streets. Prince Louis's excitement peaked when he spotted the military bands playing along the route. The music added a festive atmosphere to the procession, and he tried to conduct along with the bands from inside the car. His family's laughter at his enthusiasm helped maintain the warm, familial atmosphere, despite the formal nature of their journey. The closer they got to Westminster Abbey, the more impressive the ceremonial preparations became. Ancient traditions were being honored with modern precision, creating a spectacle that bridged centuries of British history. The children could sense that they were approaching something truly extraordinary. Kate used the final minutes of their journey to have quiet individual conversations with each child, offering final encouragement and reminders about their roles in the upcoming ceremony. She wanted to ensure that each of them felt confident and prepared for what would undoubtedly be one of the most memorable days of their young lives. The architecture of Westminster grew more prominent as they approached their destination, with the ancient abbey standing ready to host its latest coronation ceremony. The building had witnessed the crowning of monarchs for nearly 1,000 years, and today it would add King Charles III to that distinguished list of rulers. Traffic along their route had been completely cleared except for the ceremonial procession, creating an almost surreal experience of traveling through central London without the usual bustling activity. Instead, the streets were lined with ceremonial guards, musicians, and thousands of spectators who had gathered to be part of this historic moment. As Westminster Abbey came into full view, the family could see that the area had been transformed into a magnificent setting for the coronation ceremony. Red carpets, ceremonial decorations, and carefully positioned media areas created an impressive backdrop for the day's events. The children realized that they were about to become part of something that people would remember and talk about for generations to come. The final moments of their journey were filled with a mix of anticipation and pride as the Wales family prepared to step out of their car and into the waiting eyes of the world. Their private family mourning was now officially over, and their public role in one of Britain's most important ceremonies was about to begin. Arrival at Westminster Abbey. The car doors opened, and suddenly the Wales family found themselves at the center of one of the most watched events in modern history. Camera flashes illuminated them like stars as they stepped onto the red carpet that led into Westminster Abbey, while the roar of the assembled crowd created a wall of sound that was both thrilling and overwhelming. Princess Charlotte took a deep breath and executed the perfect curtsy she had been practicing for months, directing it toward the Abbey's entrance where her grandfather would soon be crowned king. The crowd's appreciation was audible, and photographers captured the moment that would grace newspaper front pages around the world the following morning. Prince Louis initially seemed stunned by the intensity of the attention focused on their family, but quickly recovered his characteristic enthusiasm when he spotted the colorful ceremonial guards lining their path. He waved energetically at the crowd, earning delighted cheers from the spectators who had been waiting hours to catch a glimpse of the youngest member of the Wales family. William walked with the bearing and confidence that years of royal training had instilled in him, acknowledging the crowd while keeping his family moving smoothly toward the Abbey's entrance. His protective instincts as a father were balanced perfectly with his understanding of the public's desire to see and celebrate with the royal family on this historic day. Kate moved gracefully along the red carpet, her outfit catching the light beautifully as cameras documented every step of their arrival. She kept one eye on her children and another on the crowd, ready to respond to any unexpected situations while maintaining the dignified composure expected of future queen consort. The ancient stones of Westminster Abbey seemed to welcome the royal family as they approached the entrance that had been used by countless monarchs and their families throughout British history. The weight of tradition was palpable in the air, mixing with the excitement of the modern crowd to create an atmosphere unlike anything else in the contemporary world. Prince George walked with increasing confidence toward his ceremonial duties, his page of honor training evident in his posture and movement. Other young pages were arriving simultaneously, creating a group of children who would play crucial roles in the day's ancient rituals while representing the future of the British monarchy. Security personnel moved almost invisibly around the Heer family, their professional expertise ensuring that the focus remained on the celebration, rather than any concerns about safety. Years of planning had gone into making this moment appear effortless, though hundreds of people were working behind the scenes to coordinate every aspect of the arrival. The crowd's enthusiasm was infectious, with people of all ages cheering and waving flags as the Wales family made their way toward the Abbey. Many had camped overnight to secure the best viewing positions, and their dedication was rewarded with clear views of the royal children who had captured the public's imagination and affection. Charlotte discovered that waving to crowds was more enjoyable than she had expected, especially when she saw children her own age in the audience waving back at her. The connection between the royal family and the public felt genuine and warm, rather than formal or distant, making her feel proud to be part of something that brought so many people joy. Inside the Abbey's entrance, ceremony coordinators made final checks with Prince George about his page of honor duties, ensuring he was comfortable with the timing and positioning that would be required during the coronation service. His serious attention to these last-minute instructions showed how well he understood the importance of his role. Kate took a moment to adjust the children's outfits and offer final words of encouragement before they would be separated for their different roles in the ceremony. Louis would sit with his parents and Charlotte in the congregation, while George would join the other pages in their ceremonial duties closer to the altar. The sound of the Abbey's famous bells began to ring out across London, signaling that the coronation ceremony was about to begin. The bells had announced royal occasions for centuries, and their ancient voices added another layer of historical continuity to the day's events. Prince Louis was fascinated by the Abbey's soaring architecture and the hundreds of distinguished guests who were taking their seats for the ceremony. His whispered questions about who everyone was and what different parts of the building were called kept his family entertained while they waited for the ceremony to begin. William shared quiet words with each of his children, reminding them how proud he was of their behavior and preparation for this day. These private family moments continued even in the most public of settings, showing how the Wales family maintained their close bonds despite the extraordinary circumstances surrounding their lives. The Abbey filled with the sound of the choir, warming up and the organ being tested, creating a musical backdrop that enhanced the spiritual and ceremonial atmosphere. The children listened with fascination to sounds that would soon accompany one of the most important religious and state ceremonies in British tradition. Kate noticed familiar faces among the congregation, including family friends and fellow members of the royal family who would witness King Charles's coronation alongside them. The presence of people they knew helped make the vast, formal occasion feel more personal and meaningful for the children. As the final preparations were completed, and the ceremony's start time approached, the Wales family took their designated positions within the ancient abbey. They were ready to witness history being made, knowing that their own participation would be remembered as part of the continuing story of the British monarchy. The transformation from a family arriving at Westminster Abbey to participants in a coronation ceremony was complete. Soon, the eyes of the world would turn to the altar where King Charles III would be crowned. But for these precious final moments, the Wales family could absorb the magnitude of the occasion and prepare themselves to be part of something truly extraordinary. The sacred ceremony. The ancient ceremony began with the sound of trumpets echoing through Westminster Abbey's sacred spaces, announcing the arrival of King Charles III and Queen Camilla for their coronation. The Wales family took their designated seats in the congregation, with Prince Louis between his parents and Princess Charlotte beside her mother, while Prince George prepared for his special duties as a page of honor. As the procession made its way down the Abbey's aisle, Princess Charlotte watched with wide eyes as her grandfather appeared in his ceremonial robes, looking every inch the monarch he was about to officially become. The solemnity of the moment was not lost on her, and she sat with unusual stillness, understanding that she was witnessing something that happened only once in a generation. Prince George joined the other young pages as they took their positions near the altar, his months of preparation evident in his confident movements and perfect posture. The red and gold of his uniform blazed brilliantly under the abbey's lights, and his serious expression showed how deeply he understood the honor and responsibility of his role in crowning his grandfather. The Archbishop of Canterbury's voice filled the abbey as he began the ancient words of the coronation service, prayers and rituals that had been spoken in this same building for nearly 1,000 years. Kate listened intently while keeping a gentle eye on Prince Louis, who was surprisingly well behaved as he absorbed the pageantry and music surrounding them. Prince Louis was mesmerized by the choir's soaring voices and the organ's magnificent sound, occasionally whispering questions to his mother about what was happening. His natural curiosity was balanced by an instinctive understanding that this was a special occasion requiring his best behavior, and Kate was proud of how well he was managing the long, formal ceremony. When the moment came for the actual crowning, the entire abbey fell into reverent silence, broken only by the Archbishop's ceremonial words. Princess Charlotte held her breath as St. Edward's crown was lifted high above her grandfather's head, knowing that she was about to witness the exact moment when he would officially become King Charles III. Prince George's role as a page of honor placed him close enough to see every detail of the coronation ritual, from the anointing with holy oil to the presentation of the ceremonial sword and scepter. His privileged position allowed him to witness elements of the ceremony that were invisible to most of the congregation, creating memories that would last his entire lifetime. The crown descended slowly onto King Charles's head, and at that moment, the abbey erupted in a carefully orchestrated but genuinely emotional celebration. Trumpets sounded, the choir sang with renewed power, and the congregation joined in the traditional acclamations that marked the birth of a new reign in British history. Kate felt tears of pride and emotion as she watched her father-in-law become king, knowing that this moment also marked another step in her children's journey toward their own future roles in the monarchy. The weight of tradition and responsibility was balanced by the joy and celebration that filled the ancient building. Charlotte whispered to her mother about how beautiful Queen Camilla looked in her own crown and ceremonial robes, and Kate agreed. While helping her daughter understand the significance of what they were witnessing, the coronation was not just about crowns and ceremony, but about service, duty, and the continuation of traditions that connected them to centuries of British history. Prince Louis's attention was captured by the procession of religious and state officials who participated in various parts of the ceremony, each wearing magnificent robes and carrying items that had been used in coronations for generations. His questions about what everything meant provided Kate with opportunities to explain their family's history and traditions in simple terms he could understand. The moment when the congregation was asked to pledge allegiance to the new king was particularly moving for the Wales family, as their words carried special significance given their position in the line of succession. William's voice was clear and strong as he made his pledge, knowing that his children were learning about duty and service through direct participation. As the ceremony progressed through its ancient rhythms, Prince George performed his page of Idus, honor duties with precision and dignity that made his family beam with pride. His ability to maintain perfect composure and timing during such a complex and emotionally charged event demonstrated the maturity and training that would serve him well in his future role as heir to the throne. The music throughout the ceremony was particularly spectacular, with pieces chosen to honor both tradition and the new king's personal preferences. The children were fascinated by the different musical elements, from the ancient chants to the more modern compositions, all blending together to create a soundtrack worthy of such a momentous occasion. When Queen Camilla was crowned in her own ceremony, Princess Charlotte paid special attention to the ritual, understanding that she was learning about roles and responsibilities that might one day be relevant to her own life. The sight of another woman taking on the duties of royal service provided inspiration and understanding about the different ways people could serve their country. The blessing that concluded the coronation ceremony filled the abbey with a sense of spiritual significance that transcended the political and ceremonial aspects of the day. The Wales family joined in the final prayers with genuine reverence, knowing that they had witnessed something sacred as well as historically important. As the newly crowned king and queen prepared to leave Westminster Abbey for their procession back to Buckingham Palace, the Wales family knew that their own day was far from over. They had successfully participated in one of the most important ceremonies in British history, and now they would join the public celebration of their country's new monarch. The sacred portion of the day was complete, but the celebration was just beginning. The Wales family had witnessed the transformation of Prince Charles into King Charles III, and they were ready to join him in celebrating this historic moment with the people of Britain and the watching world. Return and celebration. The procession from Westminster Abbey back to Buckingham Palace was even more spectacular than their morning journey, with the newly crowned King Charles III and Queen Camilla leading a magnificent parade through the streets of London. The Wales family followed in their own carriage, waving to crowds that had grown even larger and more enthusiastic now that the coronation ceremony was complete. Prince Louis was absolutely delighted by the horse-drawn carriage ride, pointing excitedly at everything he saw while maintaining just enough royal composure to avoid embarrassing his family. His infectious enthusiasm brought smiles to the faces of everyone around him, from his siblings and parents to the crowds lining the streets who could see his genuine joy through the carriage windows. Princess Charlotte had perfected her royal wave during the morning's events, and now she employed it with confidence and grace as thousands of people cheered for the royal family. She felt proud to be part of such a happy celebration, understanding that her grandfather's coronation was bringing joy to people throughout Britain and around the world. The crowds along the procession route had grown substantially since the morning, with people celebrating not just the completion of the coronation ceremony, but the beginning of a new era in British history. Union Jack flags waved everywhere, and the sound of cheering and singing created a festival atmosphere that made the formal ceremony feel like a genuine national celebration. Prince George rode with quiet dignity, still processing the magnitude of his role in the coronation ceremony, and beginning to understand how his participation had made him part of British history. His serious demeanor was balanced by occasional smiles and waves to the crowd, showing how he was learning to balance personal feelings with public duties. Kate felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she watched her children handle the public attention with such grace and maturity. The months of preparation and gentle guidance had paid off beautifully, and she could see how much they had grown in confidence and understanding of their roles within the royal family. William pointed out various landmarks and significant buildings to his children during the procession, continuing their education about British history and the importance of the institutions they represented. Even during this public celebration, he maintained his commitment to helping his children understand their heritage and responsibilities. The military bands that accompanied the procession created a soundtrack of celebration that enhanced the festive atmosphere throughout central London. Prince Louis tried to clap along with the music, while Charlotte swayed gently to the rhythms, both children showing how the joy of the occasion had affected them despite the formal nature of their roles. As they approached Buckingham Palace, the crowds became even denser and more excited, knowing that the royal family would soon appear on the famous balcony for the traditional appearance that would conclude the day's public celebrations. The anticipation was palpable, and the children could sense that something special was about to happen. The palace came into view with its facade decorated for the coronation celebration, and the Wales family could see the thousands of people gathered in front of the gates waiting for the balcony appearance. The sight was both thrilling and slightly overwhelming, representing the largest audience any of the children had ever faced. Inside Buckingham Palace, there were brief moments for the family to refresh themselves and make any necessary adjustments to their appearance before the final public appearance of the day. Kate helped each child with last-minute preparations while sharing her pride in how beautifully they had conducted themselves throughout the entire day. The balcony appearance was the culmination of everything they had worked toward, the moment when the newly crowned king would share his joy with the British people and the watching world. The Wales family took their positions behind King Charles III and Queen Camilla, ready to be part of this iconic conclusion to a historic day. When the balcony doors opened, the roar from the crowd below was incredible, a wall of sound that expressed the genuine affection and excitement that the British people felt for their royal family. Princess Charlotte gasped at the sight of so many people stretching as far as she could see down the mall, all cheering and waving flags. Prince Louis was initially stunned by the intensity of the crowd's reaction, but quickly recovered and began waving enthusiastically at the sea of faces below. His natural charm and obvious delight won over the crowd completely, and his animated responses to their cheers became one of the day's most memorable moments. The traditional flypast by the Royal Air Force provided a spectacular finale to the balcony appearance, with historic aircraft and modern jets creating formations overhead that had the entire royal family looking skyward in wonder. Prince George's knowledge of aircraft allowed him to identify different planes for his younger siblings, adding an educational element to the celebration. As the aircraft faded into the distance and the formal celebrations began to wind down, the Wales family could finally begin to process what they had experienced throughout this extraordinary day. They had successfully participated in one of the most important events in British history, creating memories that would last their lifetimes. The four return to their private family spaces within Buckingham Palace provided the first opportunity for quiet reflection on the day's events. The children's excitement remained high as they discussed their favorite moments, from the ceremony itself to the carriage ride, and the incredible crowd response to their balcony appearance. Kate and William shared quiet moments of pride as they watched their children process the day's experiences, knowing that they had handled themselves beautifully under circumstances that would challenge many adults. The careful preparation and gentle guidance had resulted in a day that honored both their family's traditions and their children's individual personalities. As the sun began to set on King Charles III's Coronation Day, the Wales family could look back on a day that had perfectly balanced historical significance with personal meaning. They had witnessed history, participated in ancient traditions, and shared joy with millions of people around the world, creating memories that would connect them forever to this remarkable chapter in British royal history.